What's up everybody? It's your boy Proftrof and we are back again with another TierZoo video. This is the Cryptid tier list. So from my understanding, cryptids are animals that people thought existed but don't actually exist, or we have no proof of them existing, like Bigfoot, that one monkey that one dude said existed but didn't actually exist, and he might have been racist, so it might have been an Indian person disguised as a monkey. I don't fucking know, okay? It was a complicated story.
This episode is sponsored by Brilliant.
Is that a werewolf? Yeti?
If you play this game for a while, you'll eventually hear about some builds that seem really far-fetched and possibly overpowered. Builds
Are we sure that's not just Brock Lesnar in a monkey suit?
that a lot of players will claim to have seen, but have no evidence to back it up. That's right, today we're talking about cryptids. Do they exist? And more importantly, where would they be on the tier list? If you unlock them as a playable class, would you even want to play as them? There are some where the answer is an obvious yes, and some that might be more hype than power. And there are some I've even managed to figure out how to unlock myself, so prepare for some never-before-shared secrets on these legendary builds. As always, we'll start from the bottom of the tier list and go up from there. So in my opinion, the worst cryptids are the ones unlocked by taking a well-known build and afflicting them with an appearance-altering disease. One example of this is the Chupacabra. I used to think that they'd be quite overpowered because of the lifelink ability, until I figured out how to unlock them and saw how they really play. The legend goes that the Chupacabra, aka Goatsucker, can heal itself by draining the HP of its bite victims. That's a load of nonsense. To unlock the Chupacabra, what you need to do is choose a canine build on the character select screen, and then intentionally get yourself infected by mange. You can do this by simply being in close proximity with another player with the same debuff, as it spreads quickly. Mange has a few effects. The first is a massive sanity debuff brought about by intense itching. The second is a sizable buff to intimidation as a result of hair loss from all the scratching. These two together...
Intimidation? Bruh, that looks like a fucking rat. Okay, people. What's more scary to you? A wolf, coyote? Or a naked rat? That thing looks like it's gonna die from a touch. That thing looks like it can bite my balls off while I'm trying to defend myself.
Is a sizable buff to intimidation as a result of hair loss from all the scratching. These two together unlock the Chupacabra prestige class for the coyote. However, aside from becoming scarier, it doesn't grant any more unique abilities. In fact, I'd say the cost to your sanity greatly outweighs the intimidation bonus. The same can be said about the Jackalope. The Jackalope is touted as a rabbit build equipped with antlers. Now, antlers are awesome tools, both for foraging and for defense. Their range allows you to pressure opponents from a distance.
Oi! What are you doing, brother? You're about to die. Defend yourself somehow. Okay, let's talk about it. Self-defense tips with your boy in this situation. What do you do? What do you do? I mean, I don't think you should just stand there because you're fucked. Maybe push the head, run to the car and use it as an obstacle, or maybe to the trees and just, you know, dodge around trees and shit. Punch it in the throat and run away. I mean, you're not gonna outrun it, but you need to go like 10 meters to the trees or to the car and you're good.
And their sharp prongs can inflict both.
Look at my boy's retarded defense senses. What his brain thought to do was to put your head up towards the thing with a hard head than him. I don't think it's gonna
allows
work,
you to pressure opponents from a distance, and their sharp prongs can inflict bonus damage on hit. Rabbits absolutely could benefit from having antlers, especially considering how oppressive they'd be in the raptor matchup. Unfortunately, that's not what's going on here. To play as a jackalope, you need to choose a rabbit build and then somehow acquire the Shope papilloma virus. The best way to do this is to be bitten on the face by a tick player. The virus creates protrusions that can resemble antlers, but in reality, they're tumors. So while the aesthetics might seem fun for a while, they're cutting your playthrough short by a huge margin in most cases.
Oh, that's fucked.
Next are the builds which get a lot of hype and don't have a fatal flaw, but I still don't think are necessarily top tier. The first is what I like to call the Solo Simian build. This is the general name for rumored hominid builds like the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, Yowie, and Abominable Snowman.
But that's a lot
they seem to be everywhere, and also
nowhere.
And I think there's a reason for that. Great ape builds have everything in common with these Solo Simians except for one thing: team play. Even though this fabled character seems to have the same or possibly even higher base stats and abilities than the other apes, Team play is what brought apes to the forefront of the meta. Foregoing that just seems like an objectively suboptimal play, and so I have to rate these guys lower than all the other simians. Also in this section is the Thunderbird. In my Raptor tier list, I discussed the attributes that make for a strong aerial hunter, those being speed, agility, stealth, and power. Thunderbirds, being massive flying tanks, would not be suited to this playstyle at all. The largest playable flying birds are all scavenger types that use their large size to travel great distances easier. The largest raptor build ever to make waves in the meta was the Haast's Eagle, which managed to have a commanding lead in the New Zealand meta for a solid chunk of time.
Haast's Eagle.
However, this build was by no means a Thunderbird. It was actually smaller than modern-day Condor and Albatross builds, and so as intimidating as a cloud-sized eagle would be, I don't think it would make for a very effective build.
You would
Okay,
need
so
to
now
eat
that
a
we've
lot
covered
of
the bad
food.
and average cryptid,
You would need to eat a lot of fucking food. So as y'all know, as y'all educated young minds know that watch this video, of course, flying cunts need a lot of food because they use up a lot of energy. A big flying cunt's gonna need a lot more energy than a
let's finally
small
get into
flying
ones I
cunt.
think would actually be really strong. In fact, it's my personal opinion that these cryptids are actually players who somehow avoided the sweeping bans put in place by the devs. The first one is, of course, the Loch Ness Monster. Plesiosaurs used to hold the #1 spot in the marine meta, way back during the Jurassic expansion. They were much quicker and more agile than fish at the time, and since the devs hadn't introduced marine mammals to the game yet, they were totally uncontested. If plesiosaurs were still playable today, they'd easily still be high tier. The tactic of using one's reach in order to attack a school of fish from afar is what made them so dominant in the past metas, and this strategy is still employed by builds like the swordfish and sawfish today. In fact, one of the main arguments against the existence of the Loch Ness Monster is that they're simply too strong for the Loch server. They'd easily overpower and defeat every other player there, and eventually just end up starving because they'd have driven away the competition. If something like this build is actually playable, it's much more likely that it's an open ocean exclusive. And judging by the recent find, this build is actually
Ooh, my boy, you are so close to being in a fucking Saw movie.
playable, it's much more likely that it's an open ocean exclusive. And judging by the recent finding of a mysterious creature washing up on Georgia's shore, this seems to be the case. The last cryptid on our tier list today is another potential banhammer dodger, the jungle-dwelling reptile called Mokili Membe. Despite the
heard of
fact that
this.
the devs removed sauropod builds from the game long ago,
Yo, why did my boy become angry all of a sudden? Listen to his voice.
Mokili Membe. Despite the fact that the devs removed sauropod builds from the game long
Tell
ago,
him, boy.
rumor has it that Mokili Membe is a secret playable character in the river biome of the Congo jungle. This is at least mildly plausible because the vast stretches
is.
of thick rainforests and deep swamps have actually blocked human data miners from exploring the area. One reason I find this build to be more plausible than Nessie is that Mokili Membe is speculated to be using the pygmy character trait. This solves two problems at once. First, this gets around the problem I have with the Nessie build, in that they're so big and powerful that they'd annihilate all of their competition and end up starving. A pygmy sauropod would still be powerful, but there would still be enough loot for itself and other herbivores in the area. This also helps explain how it avoided the ban, seeing as pygmy builds often survive much longer than their full-sized counterparts, as seen with the pygmy mammoth that survived on the Aleutian Island servers up until fairly recently. Now, with that said, I've still never had the opportunity to play as this fabled character or even seen one in-game, so if any of you know how to unlock it, please share that in the comments. With the possible exception of Sasquatch, none of these cryptids really have the intelligence stats required to keep up with the current meta, and this could be contributing to why some of them have faded into legend. Don't let this happen to you. By using the link in the description, you can level up your intelligence by actively solving
Okay, we don't need to level up our dungeons anymore. We're leveling up by looking at these clips. Okay. Anyway, that was TierZoo's cryptid tier list. I was hoping there would be more cryptids, but he mentioned the big ones, the Chupacabra and the Bigfoots, Loch Ness monsters and shit, and a rabbit with fucking horns and shit. Seems cute, I guess. Why a rabbit would need horns, I have no idea, but it is what it is. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Everybody have a nice fucking day.